Are silence and sound the same thing? In reference to the last video I made, a commenter asked whether silence and sound are indeed the same thing, or whether sound itself is ultimately silent, because without the psychoacoustic apparatus, the ear, the brain, creating the sense of what sound actually is internally, there is actually not sound out there in the universe, that the universe is a silent place. So this is a great question, and I wanted to follow up with this video to point to something that I was pointing to in the last video, but I will discuss this in a little bit more nuance, and that is the difference between direct experience and thought. So in direct experience, a sound is just a sound. It's just what it is. If I were talking to somebody and pointing to the direct experience of sound, and they were to say, well, isn't sound made out of compressional waves moving through the air, that without a cochlea and neurons to pass that information onto the brain would not be interpreted as what we consider to be sound? And I would say, when we're talking about direct experience, that is only a thought. That means what I'm really pointing your attention to is not your own thought process, which is a collection of things you've learned about sound and about a lot of things. But I'm pointing your attention to the sound itself, just the sound, yes? So this demonstrates how easily and quickly the mind gets a hold of you, the thought process gets a hold of you, when you choose to do a simple task like just listen, right? If you're really particular about this, vigilant, and just listen, how long does it actually take before you start thinking, or before thoughts begin or catch attention in such a way that it feels like you, the thinker of thoughts? Try it and see. Just listen. Were you able to stay with me the whole time without thoughts? Without any internal reflection about what am I doing? Oh, this is easy. This is hard. I'm not sure if I'm hearing this right. Or thinking about what a thought or a sound actually is scientifically. Were you able to stay there for however long that was? 5 seconds, 10 seconds? If you can, great. Do it for 30 seconds. Do it for 5 minutes. If somebody who's never had an awakening or significant shifts beyond awakening and deepening of that initial experiential insight can sit and just listen for 5 minutes without any interrupting thoughts, without a thought at all, then you don't need to do any work. You're done. You're enlightened. The chance that that's possible for somebody truly to sit there for 5 minutes with only hearing and not be liberated, I'm not sure that's even possible. So in one way of speaking, this that I'm pointing to is very, very simple. It's a very simple practice. You don't need to know all these nuances of how sound works or how thought works, or any spiritual practices that teach you to delineate sound from hearing, from the hearer, from the objects, from the subjects. You don't need any of that. Just listen. But be really, really honest with yourself about when that listening turns into thinking. That's what this is about. So if you're just listening, very quickly when thoughts subside, the sense of being a listener subsides. The sense of knowing what thought is or what sound is subsides. The sense of being in a room, a world, or a universe subsides very quickly. Which thoughts catch you? Are they doubt thoughts? No, it can't be this easy. Or, oh, this never works for me. Every time I try, this happens, that happens. Right? Thoughts, thoughts, thoughts. But which are the ones that catch you? Which are the ones you believe? Which are the ones that feel like you and your thoughts? Those are the sticky ones. Maybe you have some background in listening to non-duality videos or neo-advaita videos. And as soon as you start doing this, your mind starts saying, well, who's going to listen anyway? And there's no one there. And right? Thoughts, more thoughts. Doesn't matter what those thoughts are about. Doesn't matter if a thought's mundane, spiritual, non-dual, or you feel like it's the highest non-dual knowledge possible. Like there's no self, there's no one, there's nothing, there's no one that can do anything. They're all just thoughts. What I'm pointing to is just hearing without thoughts. And the beauty of working in the senses is there's always something right there to engage. Sound. Hear without being a hearer. I'm pausing so that you can actually do this, by the way. Listen without being an active listener. Just listening. Forget that you're the listener. Forget how good or bad you are at it. Forget anything in the past you've learned about being a good listener or spirituality or Buddhism or Vahaya Sutta. Doesn't matter. Just listen. Just sound. The sound is your teacher. It's a potent teacher. It's better than 100,000 neo-advaita videos. I don't even need to call it infinite because it's beyond any conception of infinite. Just listen, it's right there for you. Listen and let go. Listen and surrender. Listen and don't add anything. Just hearing. Now, if you can stay with this for a few seconds or longer, the common things the mind will say. Oh, this is getting intense. Or, wow, things are really opening up. Oh my gosh, my sense of self almost went away. These observations about experience, once you start to really feel and taste what I'm pointing to here, the depth of what's possible in the sense fields, in sound, then the mind starts referencing the experience itself as whatever. It'll label it. It'll form a view around it or in reference to it. This is intense. This is vast. Oh, I have to remember how to do this. I have to remember how to get here, right? All of these are life rafts to protect you from moving too far away from thought, the safe space of thought, right? Don't grab any life rafts here. Just listen. Just hearing. There's no waves. There's no universe. There's no compression. There's no air, molecules, notes. There's no focus, narrow or broad focus. Those are all thoughts. Just sound. Just this. No labels. This is non-dual practice. It's very, very simple. But it's critical to be really honest with yourself on how adept you are at actually pouring your attention into that sound field without immediately jumping into thoughts. If the thoughts crowd in too quickly, or you feel like you can't even break out of them at all long enough to stay in that sound field for a couple of seconds, then just work on self-inquiry. Work on that first awakening. That will make a lot of difference. It makes all the difference. It's the beginning of the end. There's a lot of work to do after that, but it's a huge shift, and it's important. But if that's happened and you've been working diligently to clarify the mind and disentangle yourself from thoughts and beliefs, work through emotion, then start working in this way, in this very, very simple way, until it becomes exceedingly obvious that it could not be other, that there is no subject here and an object over there of sound, sensation, color, form, taste, smell, that those are artificial constructs. And this has to be experientially obvious, not intellectually. With this comes an intimacy that essentially never leaves you. There may still be some fluctuation based on view, that subtle self-view that we talk about in other videos. But the vast majority of your experience will be clear, non-dual, intimate. Seeking won't make sense. Thoughts will calm down most of the time. The sense of an outside world won't make a lot of sense anymore. You'll see that it was never really a sense or a direct experience, it was a thought. Everything is here, here, here. This is a vivid experience of closeness, intimacy, not other, not two, nowhere else. It's the opposite of FOMO, or fear of missing out. There's nothing out there to miss out on. It's here. So this is the way to approach this if your mind has the tendency to grab you quickly and start explaining what sound is and silence and sound and etc. Just recognize, oh my gosh, those are thoughts. The sound is right here, waiting for you. It's your guru. It's your Sat guru. The best teacher you could ever have is the senses. They're not the end game of realization, by the way, the sense fields, but they're a very important area to investigate, to dissolve a certain perceptual filter that will continue to make you feel like a small self, a distinct self, a separate one in a world of distinct things until it's undermined. And you'll know when that happens. Good luck.